Pedro from A&P-Reacts. I'm here today with Jarkko of Blood Red Hourglass to talk about the latest record, Your Highness, out right now, and you're flexing. It looks like you have the vinyl there next to you.
Yeah, I did some tactical product placement, obviously. Actually, what I have here is the beautiful vinyl, and then the thing is the box, which is...
that looks so cool.
It actually looks super cool. It's yet to be opened. I have not opened my own copy yet, but I will do it tonight. So
what's in the box?
There's a lot of stuff. Obviously, we got a Your Highness 2 CD Deluxe Edition crossbody bag with the band logo. Original, authentic Finnish salty licorice from Fazer, which is like the best licorice you can get in the world. Got a beer coaster, signed and hand-numbered greeting card from the band, and of course a 3D rubber badge, red colored.
So the question that I have is, when am I getting my copy?
I think there's some sort of a postponing delivery, I believe. I mean, we'll make that happen if you ain't got one. I also got the double CD deluxe edition, which actually looks
that looks beautiful.
Really nice. Yeah,
that looks beautiful. I
nice
guess I need to send Out of Line Music an email and asking them what happened to my box. Did it get lost?
Yeah, exactly. I think you need to do that, definitely.
So how
bit
excited...
of a threatening tone,
yeah,
you know?
a very harsh worded email asking about what happened to my box. So now that the album is out, is a little bit of the pressure off of your shoulders, or does the pressure start now that people start listening to it?
I think in this case, from the very beginning, when we were facing this completely new kind of a scenario where we started from to create the album, we really felt no pressure. Somehow it just felt so natural and easy to start from scratch in a way, since A&P left the band, and of course we had a new challenge. So to be completely honest, I think that the pressures are only coming now, when people start to listen to the album and go through it. And I've been spending my morning and basically the whole day reading comments online, and I'm just overwhelmingly thankful for the feedback so far. It looks like people just 100% got the point that we wanted to reach with this album. So it's super relieving in a way.
You mentioned NT's departure. Did his departure change the way you guys approach a record from a creative standpoint?
Absolutely. I mean, A&P, after all, was responsible for like 95% of the song material before. And when he decided to step aside, no drama, of course, we were kind of screwed for a week or two, and just thinking, okay, who's going to write the songs? What's going to happen next? I mean, of course, we knew we are capable of writing song material, but he was super talented songwriter. And of course, then we faced a completely new challenge. But then again, it only took a very short period of time when Joni started to send the first demos and Jose started to compose immediately, and then we brought Eero into the pre-production of the album, and he started to produce content and send the stuff. And it was like 2 weeks, and we knew that, okay, there's like zero worries, we can do it, we can definitely do it. And of course it was a challenge, but it was a great way or a great moment for us to step up and show what we're capable to do without one songwriter.
When you look back at the beginning of the band, and you look back at the way you guys built this record, there's definitely been growth. And obviously there's been challenges, but there's been growth in your sound. You haven't been a band that's released 2 albums that sound alike. I mean, there's similarities between all of them, but they all have their own individual fingerprint, if you will. Is this part of who you guys are as Blood Red Hourglass, a band that doesn't necessarily want to release 2 albums that sound the same, but rather looks forward in terms of what you can become in the future?
Yeah, that's definitely the case. I mean, it would be super inspirational to just do the same album all over again. I know the fans kind of want to hear the same good old Blood Red sound, and whenever there's change, there's going to be a lot of talk about it. And I think what we've been able to do with our records so far is that we kind of changed just enough to keep it interesting so far. But with this album, I think it's a bit more, drastic, a bit more radical, the change. But in my books, it definitely happened in a good way. So I truly stand behind of the sound we have on the new album.
The next question I have for you is a difficult one to answer, because I'm seeing some comments from fans saying that the reason why you guys changed so much on this record is because of Anti's departure. Do you feel like that's the case, or this album would be the album that it is regardless of that or not?
I think it's 100% the change. I mean, of course, we never talked about it, but honestly, I don't think we could have produced, Your Highness, the type of album we now have if we would have just kept continuing with the same package. Of course, Antti has a very distinct signature sound on his songs, and of course, we want to respect that on the new stuff. We don't want to get rid of it completely, but yeah, what we did is just something completely different. And of course, there are many things that there are many things behind the fact that the sound is what it is now, but we wanted a bit more radical change for this album.
I also want to talk to you about the production, because if I look at Heal and Godsend and I look at this album, there's also been a gradual improvement as far as the production of the record is concerned. What do you see as being the biggest change on this album from that perspective?
I think we used a bit of a more modern metal sound, or maybe not necessarily even metal sound or metal bands references to get the sound right for this album. But talking about Godsend, I think what we did on Godsend after Heal was like a tremendous gear up production wise, and it was sort of like easy to continue from Godsend. Juho did the recording like he's done since Where the Oceans Burn, and we wanted Henrik to mix and master the album again. And this time we just took a few more rounds when it comes to the mixing, and really like dialed into reaching the modern and punchy and fresh sound in overall. But like nothing super radical change regarding that one.
When you guys were putting this album together and you had this vision for what you wanted the sound to be and what you wanted the changes to be, and we're going to get into those changes down the road, because I really have to ask you a bunch of stuff about your vocals on this album. Was there any challenges recording an album that has a little bit of not a complete departure from Blood Red Hourglass, but that it does introduce a lot of new elements that you guys have never introduced before? So did that create a challenge during the recording process, or was a little bit smoother?
I think it all went just super smooth. We had zero issues when it comes to the recording of the album. I mean, we recorded the drums in a different studio, and then we just had a cottage in the middle of nowhere here in Finland, in the middle of woods, where basically a member at a time, we just went there, stayed there for the days required for each one to take care of his own parts. And then we had another cottage like on the same yard or the same area, which was dedicated for the super top secret keyboard landscape production office kind of a way to I mean, Jose and Eero spent the whole freaking month basically there coding the keyboards in, and they were like spending a shitload of time doing that at the same time. Other than that, it was not a challenge. We maybe were a bit worried that how well do the songs like fit together, because back in the days we had only one songwriter responsible for everything. Now all of a sudden we have four. And of course, each of the four members got a distinctive sound of their own when it comes to the song material. So we were maybe a bit worried, how are we gonna be able to keep the red line over there? But then again, when you start placing the vocals over there, it's kind of brings it all together a bit. And then we started to exchange the soundscapes and samples and stuff that's happening back there. between the guys. So like what Jose used on pre-production and what Joni used on pre-production, the guys just exchanged the sounds for those backing tracks. And of course, when you get the tight studio sound for everything, it just packs it up so well. So, but yeah, like studio wise, recording wise, that was all just super smooth. Some killer riffs and some quite tough vocal things to record there for this album, but made it through. So
yeah, you mentioned the track listing and putting these songs together. I always feel like you guys do a wonderful job creating records that have ebbs and flows. You don't necessarily put two songs that sound alike back to back. You give the listener a sense of a roller coaster ride journey. In this album, to a certain extent, it feels a little bit that way. Is that part of the DNA of the band, that you have that kind of a formula that this is how you want your albums to come across?
I mean, we spend a lot of time with the song order. Each and every album, it's been like that. And it can be a real struggle to find the right order, you know? And you kind of want to mix it up a little. You kind of want to divide the album into certain areas or atmospheres. And yeah, it was a challenge again, you know, to come out with the song order we now have on the album. But I think there's a great evolution of Trauma. And, you know, songs like Until We Meet Again. I mean, what can you do with a song like that except place it in the end of the album? I just, yeah, you know, Leaves, I feel it's a
great opener.
Yeah, I think it's a great opener. It's a beautiful track. It kind of resembles something new and fresh. I really like the song. It's the first song from Joni on that album. And yeah, kind of introduces the vibes of the whole album fairly well. Then you get it dropped down to the Drag Me the Rain, and there's a lot of thought behind that. I don't know how well we succeeded, but I feel it's doing pretty well.
I'll give you my perspective. I thought that Leaves was a great opening track because it had some of the vibes of the old Blood Red Hourglass, but perhaps with a new face on it, if that makes sense to you. Because when I'm listening to Leaves, I'm listening to a song that if you guys had released that track on the two previous albums, would have fit those records perfectly. So it has a little bit of the opening the album with something for the fans that are familiar with. So it's easy for us to get into the record because the first couple of songs kind of feel like that Blood Red Hourglass DNA is there. But then when you reach the midpoint of the album, I think Veritas is the midpoint of the album. The record takes a completely different spin. So are you aware that the album has this kind of like side A and side B, or this Jekyll and Hyde feel to it?
Kinda. I'm not sure if we were really looking to it being that like distinct, like to divide it in half. But of course, you always see it a bit different from your own point of view and your own perspective. So yeah, I was a bit worried, like we get the clean vocals now on the album, like many of the songs have the clean vocals, and there were basically no clean vocals on the singles that we released from the album. So I was a bit worried if it's like going to get you completely off guard.
It did
in a way that it's in a way that it's no more like you don't like it anymore. But yeah, maybe we hit the goodies a bit too much, but yeah, it's there. And I think surprise can be good, you know, especially when you start dialing in and giving it a few more spins and keep it looping, and you kind of grow into the whole concept of the album. I think at that point it starts to make a bit more sense to you, hopefully.
Yeah, it was really interesting because Jose was talking to me about the record, and he's like, "Have you heard it?" And I was like, "No, I haven't heard it yet." Oh, he goes, "There's some surprises there." And I was like, "Okay, some surprise that, you know, like I was expecting, like, I don't know, some guitar solos, a couple of really heavy breakdowns. I don't know, maybe going in towards deathcore. I don't know. I was not expecting clean vocals. That's perhaps the last thing on my mind. So when I was listening to the album, I was like, "Oh, this is the surprise he was talking about." So yeah, I felt that it's kind of like there's no real true way of putting this album together when you think about it, because the way you guys did it works fine, because you have songs that are more Blood Red Hourglass at the beginning, and that gives you, for the listener, it kind of gives you a sense of comfort as you get into the album, and then you surprises on the second half. But by then we're already into the record, so it's easier for us to digest those changes. But at the same time, I kind of wanted them more mixed throughout so that it's not as lopsided. But if you do that, then you run the risk of losing the listener at the beginning of the album and not really allowing the listener to kind of grow with the record. So I feel like there's no right way of doing it. So the way you guys did it, for me, it's fine. It's one of those things that, depending on the perspective of the listener, you're going to get a completely different opinion. If you talk to 10 people are going to give you 10 different opinions.
That may be the case, and that's something that's actually super cool to see as well. When you ask about the songs, what's your favorite song, each and every person comes out with a different opinion. So it kind of tells a super wide variety of a story here, and I really like that, you know.
And one of my favorite songs, speaking of that, is Tell Me About Yesterday Tomorrow. Is this a Blood Red Hourglass ballad?
I think it is. I think it is. It's the first song that Lauri has ever composed for the band. And we were already thinking about putting it on God's End, but it kind of arrived a little late to the party. We were already going to the studio with that album, and we just thought, okay, it's not ready. It's not time yet. Let's forget it. And it was not, we kind of completely forgot the whole song, the whole demo. And then I think it was a week before we were supposed to enter the studio with this album, Your Highness, he just, sends it out of nowhere. Hey, by the way, I made a new version of this song. And of course, we all again fell in love with the song, and I had to urgently start to create vocals for the song to make it for the album. And was there any options? I could not scream it through. I mean, and of course, then I just wanted to go full ballad route and sound like a super fragile and create a contrast between the harshness and the clean vocals, and kind of light the song up at the midsection. So, but yeah, I think it's our first ever ballad for sure.
I love the lyrics, by the way. I don't know if
Thank you.
the lyrics are yours. I absolutely
yeah, they are mine.
I love the lyrics. I love the whole thing about, like even the title of the track, Tell Me About Yesterday Tomorrow, not today, tomorrow. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's really deep. It really makes you think. And I think depending on your own emotional state of mind, when you listen to this song, it's one of those tracks that people are going to gravitate to because you can resonate with that sort of lyrical content. You can resonate with that story. So I was not only taken back by how beautiful the song is musically, but the lyrical content, the way you sang that song was really what sold me on the track. I was blown away. And coming right after Veritas, I think that starts that new wave of what that second half of the album has to offer.
Yeah, it surely does. It surely does. Yeah, Jarkko came out with the title back in the days and just kind of built the lyrics around the whole name of the song. But yeah, I agree. Somehow it just, Veritas is kind of harsh. It's a super aggressive and fast song. So we just felt that after Veritas, it's time to bring it down a little and take a little breathing break or a sip of coffee at that point. And that was the place for Tell Me About That.
Yeah, definitely. Having now 3 guitar players on the band, musically, what doors does that open for you guys?
Well, all the songs for Your Highness, they are anyways composed for 2 guitars. So we just felt that Eero contributed so much for the whole album. We just wanted to include him as a permanent member. He has such a huge role on the new album. He's such a great guy, such a Lionheart dude. Really enjoyed playing him when he was doing some replacing duties already back in the days. And yeah, it just felt natural to have him included. But mostly what we're going to do with 3 guitars is we're going to bring a huge guitar wall sound when we play live. That's the extra. So, the stages are slowly getting bigger and better, and the venues, so it's no more an issue to have 6 guys on stage anymore. So it kind of makes sense to, just create a huge wall of sound with the guitar slide. But I don't think we're gonna oh, what do I know? Am I to speak on behalf of the guys? But I don't think there's a need to have, you know, like 3 guitars, separate guitars, like 2 leads or stuff like that on the upcoming songs.
Having said that, this album had a big wall of sound as far as the guitars go. It almost felt like you guys had 3 guitars recorded on the record, at least when I listened.
Yeah, I mean, of course we double the rhythm tracks, but that's how everyone does. Yeah, I kind of like the guitar sound as well. I think we struggled a lot. I mean, Henrik sent us, I think, 6 different versions before he kind of nailed it. And the issue was what he did with Godsend when it comes to the guitars. I think that was really cool, really great sounding guitars over there as well. And he has all the you know, like the settings, he takes photos of them, and he just couldn't find them anymore. And he just emailed us that, goddamn, I don't know what I've done with Godsend, so I would love to continue from there. But then he kind of worked it from the scratch. I think it turned out really great sounding, the whole album.
We've talked about everything. We have to talk about the vocals now. I mean, this is the elephant in the room, the clean vocals on this record.
It is.
How it was a huge surprise for me. I think it's a huge surprise for anybody that's going to play the record once they get it on their hands. When did the thought of adding clean vocals to a Red Hourglass become more than just a thought and became a reality?
2020. I kind of always wanted to do clean vocals, but never been a singer, always been a screamer, you know. And now I just, you know, the guys sent the first demos. Of course, I immediately knew that the song material is just so dynamic. There are like so chill parts in those songs that if I will not be able to deliver clean vocals, it's not going to work. You just have to do that. And I always kind of wanted to do them, have them included. And now I just made the decision when I heard the first demos that, okay, gonna start practicing a little. Let's see where we stand at the end. And they are finally there. I'm so proud we did this move because, you know, it opens up so much more opportunities and widens the spectrum in the future as well.
I always felt like you guys have that blood red hourglass sound, that it's very unique to you guys. Even though you guys are coming from Finland, when I look at melodic death metal bands, for example, you kind of felt a little bit outside of the spectrum of melodic death metal bands because you didn't have as much melancholy in your sound as some other bands like Insomnium or Omnium Gathering. Just use those two as an example. Even Wolfheart, for example. But I felt like with these clean vocals, you guys kind of brought that Finnish atmosphere, that melancholic vibe into the scene, and it changes so much what you guys can do, because now you're not just an aggressive heavy band that can create these super driven songs, but now you can bring some of that Finnish darkness that we all love into the picture. Is that something that really excites you to be able to have that much broader tools at your disposal?
Of course it does. I'm not sure about Finnish darkness. I mean, only looking at the outside is enough. If you ask me. But yeah, I mean, what I wanted to do with the clean vocals is I really wanted to sound, you know, fragile. And by that, you get a lot closer to your listener when you are fragile. And that one also allows me to create huge contrasts in our song material. So now the gates are open. I think the clean vocals obviously work as a gateway for the people who maybe have not experienced our music before. So it's just super happy they're there, and the way they are just feels super natural to me, you know.
Being the first record that you used them, did you second guess yourself a lot, and how much did you rely on the rest of the band to confirm that what you were doing was the right approach for those songs?
I think we had a discussion about those clean vocals. It was kind of dividing options, but you know, the general thought was that let's do it. And since then I started to send the demos, and the guys commented, and everyone was kind of, okay, this sounds surprisingly okay-ish. I think we can nail it in the studio. And I was like, okay, thank you. Glad to hear that. So yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I run out of time with them a little in the pre-production. But like I said, I'm just super happy the gate is open. They're there and it's all now usable in the future.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is this something that you're going to continue? I know the album just came out. I'm asking you about the next album. But do you see that being something that you're going to continue down the road with the clean vocals?
I think they will be there. I see no reason why not, you know, and it just creates so much more dynamics, so much more emotion, variety to our song material. But then again, I really don't see any reason to use them more than what's on Your Highness. So it's more or less still an extra spice in the factor, the whole concept.
Was there a song on this album that made it a little bit harder for you to nail, or for the band in general? Was there a song that proved to be extra difficult, that maybe almost didn't make the cut?
I think for the guitar players, the songs from Joni, being Leaves, Gone for Now, and Change of Heart, they all got some pretty killer riffs. My Prime of Neil at the midway, when it kind of turns around the whole song, that modern riff there is quite a killer to play. Other than that, of course, I think I struggled the most with Gone for Now. In the studio, for the first time ever, I also somehow managed to blow my voice, and that happened on Tell Me About Yesterday Tomorrow. After that, everything was, you know, just impossible to do. I had to take 10 days break and continue later on with the last remaining song. But I never went back to Tell Me About Yesterday Tomorrow. So at the midway of the song, when my voice started to break down, you can hear it on the record. It's now there. That's super cool. So
it gives it a little bit extra flavor.
Yeah, there's extra flavor, and I don't know if it's good or bad, whatever. It's still there, and yeah. But I think the clean vocals were the ones that I had to spend the most of the time recording my own part in the studio, which was obvious. I mean, I've been screaming for quite a long time, and I'm lucky that Juho Mr. Raya is doing the recording. He's like super strict what goes through, so no shit included.
I know, he's a puppet master, man. The guy's an absolute
genius. That he's a freaking genius and such a nice guy. So I just love to work with him. He's like, it's so chill. The atmosphere when you're in the studio recording with Juho, you can't even explain it. Just so overly chill, it's unreal.
I know, he's one of the most laid back guys ever, and for as good as he is at everything that he does, he acts like nothing. Like he's not like over conceited about his own skills. He's just a super chill dude.
That's very true.
Last question for you. As you look back and you see the first album from Blood Red Hourglass and you see this record, what do you see as the biggest growth that this band has had over the span of so many albums?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think we just been, working so hard consistently, album after another, and maybe with Your Highness, what we done now, which is so much more of a group effort, I feel it's the game changer of our career. I hope it will be. I hope this is the album that will take us to the next level and take us around the world to play the biggest stages available. I need to dig that one.
I hope the same thing for you guys. Jarkko, thank you very much for your time today, man. It was an absolute pleasure to pick your brain. All the best with this release. Much success, and I'll see you soon, I hope.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.